Okay, what's the one magic trick that I guarantee 95% of you with an X-T2 out there are not doing? Okay, go into your menu settings, go over to AF plus MF, which is page 2, and then click on for the selection that says AF plus MF. What this will let you do in single autofocus mode, not continuous obviously so, is track, lock, and then override that lock. What is this useful for? It's especially useful, particularly, it's useful for anything, but specifically it is insanely useful for use up close with, say, the 16mm Fuji lens, which can get in really close, and they say there's just a specific area at f4 you want to capture, or the 56mm, especially at f1.2. Choose your focus peaking. Now, I choose white highlight, there's blue highlight, there's split screen and normal, which I never use, white highlight, blue highlight, and red. Depends on the contrast scene and what you're shooting as far as whether white or red or blue are appropriate. I use blue and red outdoors, typically white indoors, but red also works. What this lets you do, say I'm at f2.4, you think, well, that's not that shallow. Well, you're not very familiar with macro, because the 2.4 on macro is pretty damn shallow. That's what always confuses people about this particular lens, or any macro lens. They're like, well, you know, depth of field's got to be pretty fairly decent at f2.4. No, we're talking about a different category of lenses. This is macro. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually lock on autofocus here. Now I've already got the beep confirmation. What I'm going to do, now that I'm half pressed and I'm locked in, I am going to use my focus knob, and I'm going to get red highlighting where I want my focus to be. So I keep it half pressed, grab a hold of my manual focus knob, okay, and then I will choose via the focus peaking, as shown to me in either the LCD or the viewfinder, that which I want to lock onto focus for. This is insanely useful for portraiture at f1.2. Now, even if you're at the smallest single point, go to single point and smallest box, which is a single point box on your autofocus area, you think, well, you know, that's single point. I'm going to drag it over to so-and-so's eye. I think I've nailed it. Well, you might not have. Use focus peaking. What this lets you do, and it's really fast, it's like, well, that kind of well, in portraiture and, you know, non-moving subject, that's not an issue, you know. Why this is important is it'll get you 98% of the way there, hopefully 100%, but you don't know until you do the override. And make sure that you've got it nailed. You will get actually red, white, or blue, whatever you choose, confirmation on whatever it is that you're focusing on, like me focusing on the camera. Now I have autofocus lock, so I know I'm 98 or 100% of the way there, but to confirm, see, for example, just then it was focused on not the front of the lens that's filming me now, but it was focused on the body. So I wanted to move the focus peaking to the front because that's what I wanted to actually capture as my point of focus. And when you go to chimp on the back, you'll notice, oh my goodness, I actually nailed the focus, or the camera itself, because of the shallow, not at that distance really, but certainly at distances like this, or any macro work, the 16mm, anything that has a wide depth of field, or shallow depth of field, excuse me, by shallow depth of field I was referring to a wide aperture. Anything with a shallow depth of field, or anything that you can get in really close with, like the 16mm Fuji, the 60mm macro, the 56mm f1.2, think of some others, and the 90mm f2, override it. Don't have to always do that, but if nailing that focus absolutely critical where you want the dead center of focus to be, like this microphone for example, I guarantee you that the camera will get it wrong. Okay, let's do single point here. Okay, now it's locked on, but it was actually locked onto the screen. I wanted it to be locked on to the lettering in the center of the screen, which, even though I got focus confirmation and my square dot was over the center of the microphone, the truth was that the focus was actually on the screen. Now I've nailed it. The depth of field and the bokeh on the 60mm f2.4 is actually very, very lovely. People think, well, f2.4, you know, that's not like an f1.4. Well, it depends. f1.4 on a normal prime lens for portraiture like the 56mm or 1.4 on an 85mm portrait FX lens is one thing. f2, 2.8, 2.4 on a macro lens, that's some damn insane shallow depth of field. When we're talking about this lens at f2.4, which I'm right now in aperture priority, okay, I mean, we're literally talking at f2.4, we're talking about a fourth of an inch, a little less than a fourth of an inch. It's pretty shallow. It makes a big difference between actually catching the numbers in focus or catching the mid-barrel in focus. It's like there's less than a quarter of an inch difference between there. Yeah, but you missed it. You know? So that's what it's for. And I guarantee most of you, see, I nailed it perfectly, of course. Most of you are not doing that. So turn on AF plus MF. I'm not saying use it all the time. I'm certainly not indicating that. But I'm saying is use it. Especially shallow depth of field, especially macro, and especially close up. This will make you happy, 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 and improve your photography and usefulness. You know, Fuji stuck that stuff in there for a reason. I encountered it like yesterday when I was out shooting, and I wanted to capture a spider. Now, that spider's body was really tiny. And even though the autofocus on the system is advanced, I had to use MF. I leave it on all the time anyway. It doesn't harm anything else. I went to my focus knob and I dialed that spider's body in. The autofocus wouldn't have nailed that. It was focusing on the granite, and it was focusing on everything else, the background, the granite that the spider was on, but it wasn't focusing on the spider. This is a teeny-ass little body. Even with the smallest autofocus square, the camera didn't know to look there, even though it was pointed directly at it with the autofocus point. And the smallest one, too. Still didn't get it. Grab hold of your ring, get it in the rest of the way, dial it in. Focus peaking is wonderful, and it exists for a reason. So turn on that feature in your menu system. Okay? And thanks for watching. Alright? Bye.